Hello Wolfpack, got quite a bit to talk about in regards to Bitcoin, Ethereum, total cryptocurrency market cap, and the DXY. Obviously recapping some Bitcoin information, but also going into some new information. And first and foremost, let's just start out to say, and this is how I'm going to start every video until it breaks, we have this RSI symmetrical triangle. We also have this ascending triangle on Bitcoin. The RSI symmetrical triangle will determine the direction of the break of the ascending triangle on Bitcoin. Okay, so this RSI triangle is more important than the Bitcoin price action right now, right, in terms of determining where it's going to break. Because if this thing breaks to the upside, and we're quite close to breaking to the upside here, it doesn't mean it needs to happen. We could just reject quite easily. But if it does break to the upside, that is more likely than not going to lead to a break to the upside on Bitcoin. It's very unlikely we see a fake out here. Could happen, could fake out, but it's very unlikely. Okay, and this triangle is basically going to come to a point of touching, right? So a point of which the price cannot move within the triangle anymore, basically at the very start of April. And so I would be expecting a breakout of this triangle before April, so the next 10 days. So within the next 10 days, Bitcoin is going to basically tell us very clearly where it's going to go, all right? Even if it doesn't do it on the price chart, the RSI is going to tell us very clearly where it's going to go. If this breaks up, Bitcoin's probably going to break up. If it breaks down, Bitcoin's probably going to break down. Obviously, fake out, there is a chance of it, but it's very unlikely. So let's see how it happens, right? Well, obviously in a very tight range there in the RSI between around 47 and around 58 now. So really not much, price movement we can have. We can just kind of move sideways a little bit up, a little bit down without breaking that RSI line. So the price of Bitcoin now, I mean, just as proven there, is getting very compressed. I mean, even on the price chart, we're kind of clamping between 38k and around 45k, or if you want us to be a bit more optimistic, 46k. So 38k and 46k. It's not a very big range when you consider we've been bouncing in it for 2 months, and it is compressing rapidly. By the end of next month, it's going to be 41k to 46k, and that's when you're really going to start to see a crunch. But I don't think we'll be in that range for that long. But as of this point in Bitcoin, yeah, people are getting bored, and I can understand why. But what I would say to you guys, and what I would say about predictions for the break, it's very hard to say exactly where it's going to break. I mean, given the fact that we're literally in the middle of a formation that is an indecisive formation. Yes, ascending triangles are typically bearish, but when you head downwards into ascending triangles, it does lower the chance of a bullish breakout. And when you take into account the cyclical theory and you take into account all the other longer term charts, it also lowers the chance to a breakout. So it's not really as bullish as a typical ascending triangle would be. And the volume is showing that us as well. Now, this doesn't mean it won't break to the upside. It just means we should be cautious. For those of you who don't know, and I'm just going to go into it very briefly, my buyback point on Bitcoin is a weekly close above 46, I think, 0.3k now, which is the 50-week SMA. All right, I'm not going to go into that right now. But essentially, until we get above the 50-week SMA, the next logical target for Bitcoin is the 200-week SMA. Right, so 200-week SMA is the prediction. Invalidated if we get above the 50-week and close above it. Right, it's very straightforward. So the 200-week right now is at 20k. The 50 weeks at around 46k. So there's your little target. But yeah, the 50-week is definitely the breakout point. The 50-week is definitely what we need in order to confirm a renewed bull cycle. Okay, not cycle, but bull market. Because if we confirm a new bull cycle, that doesn't really exist, right? Because that would mean the 4-year cycle is invalidated. We don't see 6-month bear markets. It doesn't happen. Okay, so if we went into a bull market right now, everything we know about Bitcoin would be invalidated. Can it happen? Sure. Will it happen? It's probably a bit less likely, right? We're kind of, people who are bullish right now are basing their bullishness off the fact that the 4-year cycle theory will be broken. And if we look into it very quickly, before we get back into volume, let's jump into it very quickly here, just very briefly. For those of you who think the 4-year cycle theory is broken, I would encourage you to look at this chart, right? I'm going to pause the screen here for a second, pause the video, look at this chart, look at the correlations between top to top, bottom to bottom, bottom to top, and between bottom to top to bottom as well, right? The correlations are very clear. The 4-year cycle theory is very much still alive on Bitcoin. It's not even in debate at all, right? It's literally not even in debate. It's just very much still a thing. 4-year cycle as percentage, that's obviously a bit more debatable. I don't think the 4-year cycle is working as percentage. It's date ranges that you should be concerned about. But what I'm seeing on Bitcoin right now is low volume and descending rapidly, right? So volume's descending rapidly as we head upwards. What does this mean? Well, it means that Bitcoin is weak, right? And that's the reality of the situation. Bitcoin is weak heading into resistance. What is the resistance? 42.5k is the resistance, and 42.5k has been a strong resistance zone and support zone throughout the entirety of the bull market and bear market as of current, right? So rejected from it in January. When we get above it, we zoom upwards, test for support. When we get below it, we zoom downwards. Rejected. When we get above it, zoom upwards. right? Retested here, zoom upwards when we bounce off of it, right? This thing is very much a strong support zone and resistance zone, and right now it's acting as resistance rail. It's hard to pinpoint where exactly it is. 42.5k is the rough region, right? It probably stems from around 42k to 43k, but 42.5k is where I'm going to put it. And then on top of that, we have various uptrending and downtrending blue lines, some of which we've actually jumped over, some of which are still acting as resistance at this point. All right, so it's kind of an area in which we need to be a bit cautious because we don't exactly know, and we can't really be sure as to where we're going to break on Bitcoin. But what we can be sure of is the fact that, well, what we can say is the fact that, well, we have not broken anything yet. Right, there's a very decent chance that we reject here. If we don't reject here, we could reject here at 44.4k. If we don't reject there, we could reject at 46k. Right, we've rejected there before. Why can't we do it again? And that's why breaking above 46k, flipping this red box, will kind of get us above all of these highs we've had in this entire region, and we can start a fresh cycle. Okay, so that's how simple it is, really. We just need to flip this red box, right? But it's not that easy. That's the thing. And when you see descending volume going into resistance like we're seeing now, it generally indicates weakness. It means that less people are willing to buy the higher price goes. So volume is basically how many orders are coming through, essentially, and how much money is coming through to the market. And when you see green volume decreasing in an upwards trend, it means that the higher the price goes, the less people are willing to buy at those higher prices, and it means that momentum is running out in that move, and it generally leads to a trend reversal. If you look at historically here, for example, in this upwards move here, we saw descending green volume. We can't really say much about this move, but in this move here, we saw descending green volume, and we saw a news event that pumped the market. So it's hard to kind of exactly pinpoint a few occasions. If you went back, you could pinpoint them very, very, very easily. I mean, throughout the entirety of this kind of push up here, we've seen descending volume. That's why we stagnated and then eventually tripped down, right? What about July, where we saw ascending volume in July on this, as we increased downwards on this upward move, which meant that there was a massive amount of strength, which led to this move upwards, right? The volume is very, very telling, right? So when you see descending volume in an upwards move, it's generally a pretty bearish sign. It's an early indicator that the trend will not sustain in that direction, most likely. Okay, and if we flip over to the 4-hourly chart, for example, we can see that kind of amplified here. Okay, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing an upwards trend for sure, but we're also seeing massively descending volume, which means that eventually, and probably within the next day, this is going to most likely reject from this 42.5k region unless some news event happens, something big happens for Bitcoin, right? It's quite unlikely we break through here on this attempt, at least. Doesn't mean we don't need a breakthrough, doesn't mean we can't break through, just means we probably need to retrace first, right? So let's see what happens. I personally think we're going to reject here, and then we can make further predictions later when it actually happens. But, it's not guaranteed, obviously. It's about an 80% chance of a rejection, in my personal opinion. And the hourly chart demonstrates this a bit more by saying, well, look at this bearish divergence going on, and then we've also seen bearish MACD cross and a failed bullish MACD cross. So short-term price action is pretty rough for Bitcoin here. And if we're looking into something longer term and looking into the larger market, well, we can start to look into something like the DXY, and you can start to ask, well, why is this move happening in the first place? Okay, why are we going up right now? We've been consolidating for so long. The market's so bearish. Why are we going up? Well, pretty clear, really. I mean, if you look at the date here on this last low, the last kind of real touch of the lower part of the triangle here, you're looking at March the 7th, okay? That was a big wick, big indecisive candle. What happened on March the 7th? On March the 7th, we stopped kind of moving upwards on the DXY. The DXY is a chart that measures the strength of the US dollar in relation to other global currencies, okay? And when you see it slow down, when you see the DXY going down, Bitcoin generally goes up. When you see the DXY go up, Bitcoin generally goes down, okay? So this topped out here on March the 7th, and it's been kind of in an M formation ever since, which is a bearish formation. Currently bouncing again on resistance, and what you'll notice is we've been bouncing within the last day. In the last day, Bitcoin's been getting rejected. So this goes up, Bitcoin goes down. Very simple. If we bounce here on the DXY, Bitcoin will go down. That's almost certain. You can almost guarantee that. And so, look, that's why we've kind of moved up, because the DXY has had some weakness. But what you need to notice is that, and I'm looking at a longer term scale here, what you need to notice is that DXY is on a macro breakout right now. This is a 21-year, 22-year triangular formation, but it's broken upwards to the upside. The only reason we had an invalidation point is because of COVID crash. Okay, that obviously threw the markets off a little bit. But that's a big invalidation. I mean, that's a big breakout there. So on a longer term time frame, it's very hard to be bullish on Bitcoin when you have these macro things at play. It's not really as simple as, oh, look at the ascending triangle on Bitcoin, it's bullish. It's like, well, the DXY's just broken a 21-year wedge triangular formation to the upside, and the DXY has historically very accurately reverse correlated to Bitcoin. So you need to start looking at these other things, and you look into things like interest rates, right? There's lots of other factors that come into it rather than just, oh, Bitcoin's in an ascending triangle, it's going to break upwards, right? It's really not that simple, and that's why I'm very, very hesitant to start being bullish again here on Bitcoin, right? 46k is what is needed, a weekly close above that, a weekly close above the 50-week, more likely, right? 46k is a rough price point. The 50-week SMA is where we need to weekly close above. That's around 46k, right? So we'll look at that when it happens, but as of this point, we can't be too sure. Now, looking at like the total cryptocurrency market cap, same deal as Bitcoin, right? We're in this triangular formation. Now, what you'll notice is this is a bearish pennant. And when you have a bearish pennant, basically you take a flagpole formation or something like this, you apply it to the bottom, and then you take it to the breakout point. Supposing we break out here, this thing's targeting a very, very, very low price. Do I think it will get to 200 billion? No, I don't. But the point is, the structure is there for this to be bearish. I don't think it's going to go that low, but it's a bearish formation for sure. It's a bearish pennant formation, and we're holding a long-term support since around January 2021. That could break. If that breaks, kiss crypto goodbye for 6 months. I can tell you that right now. If this formation breaks, if we drop below this uptrending yellow line here, that's game over. We're not going to recover from that. We're just going to go down into a bear market. And yeah, I am predicting that's going to happen. Unless Bitcoin can break the 50-week, this is my prediction. I think we're going to crash here. But what I will say is that, well, this thing is very close to resistance while Bitcoin is at resistance, and while the DXY is just above support. The correlation is there, right? The correlation is there. It's a pretty bearish correlation. Unless we can see some news event, some extra momentum to get us above, it doesn't look too good right now. This thing is consolidating quite rapidly. We're keeping an eye on that. Same thing with the Ethereum price chart right now. Very similar. It's also kind of a bear flag, or at least a bearish pennant formation here. It's not a bear flag, but it's a bearish pennant formation, and it's getting a very similar target, right, of the total cryptocurrency market cap. And again, Ethereum's at resistance, total cryptocurrency market cap is at resistance, Bitcoin is at resistance, everything is at resistance while the DXY sits above support. So, what happens next really depends on the DXY, but it's pretty clear that we're just following the pathways at this point. Nothing has happened that we wouldn't expect in a bear market yet, right? That's the key part of this video, and all my videos recently. Nothing has happened to Bitcoin that we wouldn't expect in a bear market. Consolidation like this, in this seemingly bullish formation, it's happened before, right? Happened in 2018 and 2014. Go back and check the history. This doesn't mean it's a bull market reversal. Wait for the actual reversal before saying it's a reversal, because we haven't seen the reversal yet. Nothing's been invalidated. So, that's just what I wanted to say. Basically, everything's at resistance, DXY is at support, Bitcoin is showing weakness, showing lack of momentum. So let's see what happens. I'd say it's likely we kind of see a rejection here. We don't need to reject here, but I'd say it's likely. If we don't reject here, again, I'd say it's likely we reject before 46k. If we break 46k, guess what? I was wrong. Let's jump back into the bull market and make some money. I hope that happens. But at this point, that's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.